step up. He was very active operationally in implementing a lot of Karl Rove's strategic ideas. But also from a policy standpoint, you have one less target to distract Congress from the real issues of what it is the president still needs to accomplish. There's trade agreements that are still being negotiated. There's tough budget fights that are coming up. So a lot of these issues, No Child Left Behind will be up for reauthorization. So there's a lot of issues that are still outstanding that I think it will be, the administration has a great bench that's going to come in and fill. So I don't think it will matter.
I think one of the things that he will be given credit for in the years to come and the way he changed politics is that he had a famous phrase that he said, "I run campaigns as if Americans are watching television with the sound turned down." Remember him saying that? So that meant that every picture, every photo op, every moment the president appeared on camera had to have a look about it. If the sound was turned down, you got a message from that picture. I mean, that was really, that's a huge shift. And
the best example of what you just said, and I agree with, is the mission accomplished sign on the aircraft carrier. The president, in a way that even, and President Clinton was a very skilled politician with a flair for drama, but even he couldn't match. There's President Bush with a flight jacket on in the middle of the Iraqi war with this sign in this picture. And depending on your views on him and that topic, it's a very powerful scene.
Well, it goes back to who would you rather have a beer with, that poll question at the time, President Bush, so he can pull off the flight jacket image. But look, Karl Rove is still a trusted friend, trusted advisor to the president. When Karen Hughes left the White House, she was still a phone call away for the president. So the nice thing about that is that his advice and his strategy can still be utilized by the White House without him being the front point person for Congress or other political foes.
do you think he did a good job at managing the media? I might say manipulate the media, but it's certainly he managed the message in a way that people are saying had never quite been done before. Do you agree?
You know, I would agree with that. I mean, from my experience and what I've seen, the message was very on task from Karl Rove on down. On any given issue that week, the focus would be on whatever the issue was for that week. Throughout the press cycle, it would, from the top down, would be very focused.
Well,
so.
Even the way he left. He gave the interview to one editorial writer, I believe, that he was stepping down. He didn't have a press conference, you know, that he really just sort of managed that, too. Even his leaving was managed.
A master at manipulation.
Got to give it to him.
Ruthless. It was all about winning. But at the end of the day, it's not just about winning. It's about trust. And this White House has lost a lot of trust with the American people and with the press and with Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, and liberals, because things were so heavily politicized. And sometimes people just want to hear the truth or what you believe. They don't want the politics. And that was not Karl Rove's job.
It can't be all about losing. I mean, when Tony Dungy retires, coaches around the league are going to hail his disappearance because of his success rate. So,
Bendy in Brooksville, what do you say?
I say Mr. Mark should have questioned Democrats on his polling. They would have told him who Karl Rove was, and I don't see it's going to be a benefit or a drawback either way with Bush, because he's not a popular president. Nobody respects him.
Well, I think that that Karl Rove also created some difficulties because of his you know, involvement in the Valerie Plame case, and also when they got rid of all those U.S. attorneys and things like that. And he was the lightning rod. Okay, we're going to blame him. Now that he's gone, will Bush be the one who catches the blame now?
Let's talk about that. Karl Rove had 5 grand jury he testified 5 times to the grand jury. Wasn't indicted. The press, liberals still try to indict him in the media. You know, he survived that. I don't think that his departure will have any impact on the truth and what actually happened, and if there were something to indict him on or for any criminal charges, it would have already happened.
Well, very respectfully, we did talk to a lot of Democrat and Republican people on our way to sort of planning this panel today, and there were just as many Republicans as Democrats who said, I think the guy's got to go. I think he's been a liability for Bush. Well, let me take a break. I'll get your response to it. We'll be right back. Let me go back to Todd Marks and ask him right before we went to the break. You know, I talked to some Republicans who said he's got to get rid of Karl Rove. You know, he's become a liability. The president has to get rid of him. You disagree? Well,
if the reference to a liability is the inability of the White House to reform Social Security or to pass immigration reform, which in a lot of the editorials around the country are pinning the blame on Karl Rove for not doing that, I would look back to even President Clinton when he ran against Senator Dole. His promise was, I'm going to reform, I won't do my impersonation, it's good to know. But his promise was to reform Social Security, appoint a blue ribbon commission. Even Bob Dole was appointed. What happened there? Presidents for a long time have promised to reform Social Security, which is not a trust and it's not a fund, which is also a great myth that the American people should know about. But immigration reform as well. I think if there is one critique that I would say is that Senator McCain and Karl Rove and the Republicans that maybe bit off a little too much to try to do comprehensive immigration reform rather than focusing on what would pass right now, and the 84% of the American people would support stronger security measures to seal off the border, which needs to happen before some other tragedy occurs as a result of it.
All right, Frank in St. Petersburg, what do you say?
Well, I'll tell you, this is towards Jim Davis. I think that Karl Rove is a responsible statesman, and if I had to have a brain, instead of, like, if George Bush has Karl Rove, I would like that much better than having Bill Clinton having Hillary Clinton's brain. And I'll leave it at that.
I don't know if she's ever been called Bill's brain, but who knows what's going to happen in the next election. But you know, one of the things I read about Rove was that he really did have a mission to move the Republican Party into total dominance, to sort of reverse all the dominance of the Democratic Party started achieving in the years of FDR and all. And that was the real goal, was to establish Republican dominance. Now that he is leaving, has he done it? Has he done it, or has he fallen short?
I agree that was the goal. Now, this is an insider thing, but I agree. But I think it actually backfired. I think what's actually happening now is you've got a lot of people who voted Republican in the past who are actually looking for an alternative. And depending on whether the Democrats, whoever the nominee for president is or a candidate for Congress, what they have to say, people are open to change. I think there is a growing appetite, a growing fatigue in this country with the agenda associated with the president and Karl Rove.
Bruce in Clearwater, your turn.
Yeah, I just wanted to call and congratulate these fine gentlemen here. I really agree with them. Karl Rove was just a genius, as well as President Bush. They've done such a beautiful job that not only have they ruined the Republican Party, they've ruined this country. I mean, come on, people, wake up and look at the facts. If the man was such a genius, why is he turning tail and running before? Because he wants to avoid prosecution.
Okay, go ahead. You want to jump in, Todd?
Well,
why would he leave?
I'll save the last comment on the prosecution for later. But look, Karl Rove, no question, he's a genius politically. 2002 was unprecedented gains for a midterm election for a first-term president, which I had the fortune to travel the country with President Bush at that time for the midterm elections. Even 2006 to come back after the midterms there and to make the gains that he made. Now, I'm sorry, 2004. But 2006, look, a football coach can't control injuries and some outlier facts. You know, there were some outliers in the 2006 election that led to some narrow Republican losses, and Karl Rove and the Republican Party still almost maintained victories in certain seats. But if you look at the Florida Republican Party, the great courage and the encouragement that I take is that the Florida Republicans were reelected in droves because they kept their promises to cut taxes, control spending, reform education, and do the necessary things that maybe some in our party nationally may have fallen short on, but Florida Republicans continue to hold that.
What about the caller that said, I think he got out to avoid prosecution?
The prosecution has nothing to do with what position he holds.
Is this the